Bom dia, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. So we will start in one more minute because people are joining. So 1 or 2 more minutes and we'll start. So I think we are all set to start right now. So bom dia novamente, good morning. It's a great pleasure to have you all here with us today. So, welcome to our webinar New Horizons in Open Access, How to Publish with ACS Au Journals. My name is Regiane Braque. I am part of the ACS Publication. I manage the Latin region to our publications division, and I'm very excited to be the host to this event today, which is part of our celebration for our first anniversary of the ACS and CAPES Read Post-Publish Agreement with we are actually start our celebrations with this event, so this is very special for us. So I'm gonna do this welcome and housekeeping's first words in English, and then I'll switch to Portuguese, and then our editors are gonna do their presentation in English as well. So once again, I want to welcome everyone. I want to thank you, our editors, Dr. Jones and Dr. Minty, for being here today. Thank you so much. And thank you for my colleagues, Hannah, Janali, Valtair, that are here to support our event. So thank you so much, and everyone is so welcome. This is an event that we expect to give that we are going to give you the opportunity to make questions to our editors. It's not every day that we have that opportunity. So be ready and send out your questions. There is like a link on YouTube where you can send your questions, and we are going to be more than happy. That's the idea, to have your questions answered today by our editors. So let me start by talking a little bit about what we are gonna do here today. So just some housekeeping notes. So this webinar will be live streaming on YouTube, and later, maybe a week later, you're gonna receive the recording and also your certificate of participation. So for that, don't forget to sign the form. You are gonna find that link on YouTube chat. And if you have questions, please have your questions ready. Also, you can put your questions on the form that is available. You can make your questions in English, Portuguese, or Spanish, and we will be more than happy to translate those questions. Here's our agenda for today's webinar. So we have this brief opening remarks, and then I'm going to switch gears into Portuguese to do the presentation, to talk about the ACS and CAPES Read Post-Publish Agreement, and then our editors are going to talk about the AU, ACS AU journals, and then we have the Q&A sessions, and then a brief closing remarks. So just talking really briefly about the American Chemical Society. So ACS is the largest scientific society in the world with more than 230,000 members. ACS was, we are about to celebrate our 150 years next year. So ACS was created in 1876, and today ACS is really a global organization present in more than 140 countries, and ACS is recognized as one of the editorials that publish the most important and cutting-edge scientific discovery. So here it's a little bit more about ACS. So today we have our headquarters were established in 1941 in Washington, D.C. You can see this picture here where ACS headquarters is still located, and then we have another big office here in Columbus, Ohio, and some other parts of the world. So ACS is committed to transform people's lives through science. So our vision is to build a world. It's a world built on science, and our mission is advance scientific knowledge, empower the global scientific community. And for that, ACS has different programs, different grants and possibilities that you can explore later in our website. So now talking a little bit about ACS Publications. ACS Publications is a division of the American Chemical Society. So ACS Publications it's the house for the most cited and most read journals globally. So if you want to raise the visibility of your work, for sure, ACS Journals, it's a place where you want to publish your scientific results. So today in Brazil, you have full access to ACS Journals with CAPES. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach us out on how to get access, and we are going to have our emails in the towards the end of this presentation, or you can reach out to the librarian for your university if you have any problem having access to ACS journals through CAPES portal. So now, still talking a little bit about what you get access through CAPES. So ACS has now more 93 journals, about 70,000 new articles are published every year, and we get more than 346 million downloads we got in 2024. That means that every second is more than 10 downloads, and just articles from research scientists with Nobel in chemistry have almost 10,000 articles. So it is a very powerful database. And of course, chemistry is a base science. So we cover every single areas that touch chemistry. So from agriculture to biology, all the engineer, material science, energy, every single area related to science and chemistry, you are going to find a house for your research, and the best science published you are going to find with ACS. I think that's it for now. And now I'm going to switch to Portuguese to talk specifically about ACS and CAPES Read Post Publish Agreement. Então, vamos lá, mudando agora para português, para falar um pouquinho sobre o acordo da CAPES e da ACS, que é, na verdade, um acordo histórico, porque foi o primeiro acordo celebrado pela CAPES no âmbito de Open Access. E o que significa Por que que isso é tão importante? Porque até então, a CAPES era um portal que oferecia acesso às descobertas científicas que almejavam possibilitar que os cientistas brasileiros estivessem up to date com o que está acontecendo no mundo da ciência, para que então os cientistas estudantes brasileiros pudessem avançar em suas pesquisas no conhecimento científico a partir dessas descobertas científicas. Então, a gente sabe que a ciência é uma atividade social e que você não faz ciência sozinho. Então, a maneira como os cientistas se mantêm em contato é através das publicações, e por isso que o acesso à informação científica de qualidade, validada, não aquilo que está aberto na internet, aquilo que a gente acha no Google, né, ciência não se faz com esse tipo de informação, se faz com informação revisada por pares, informações validadas, e por isso que o portal da CAPES é tão importante. Sempre foi, e agora o portal da CAPES tem uma outra frente de atuação que é muito relevante no Brasil, que é a possibilidade de permitir, possibilitar que os cientistas brasileiros publiquem os seus artigos em acesso aberto. E por que publicar em acesso aberto é tão importante? Porque os indicadores apontam que quando se publica em acesso aberto, você alcança uma visibilidade muito maior, né? Até 6 vezes mais citações para os seus artigos, e isso então significa que você tem uma democratização também, oferece uma democratização ao conhecimento científico, e por isso que a publicação em acesso aberto é tão importante. Então, esse acordo da CAPES e da ACS foi o primeiro acordo celebrado para a CAPES nessa modalidade que permite a leitura, o acesso, o uso da informação científica dos resultados das pesquisas publicadas nos journals da ACS, mas também a publicação em Open Access. Então, é importante dizer que publicar com a ACS não tem nenhum custo. Você não paga para publicar com a ACS no formato tradicional. O que que é o formato tradicional? Aquele que você tem que ter uma assinatura para acessar, né? Porque a informação, imagina, produzir toda essa informação, 150 anos, uma base de dados com 150 anos, deixar isso no ar 7 dias por semana, 24 horas por dia, garantir a qualidade, a integridade, né? A gente tem um time robusto de não só de recursos humanos, mas uma infraestrutura de tecnologia que nos permite tudo isso. Tudo isso tem um custo. Então, como que isso é custeado? Até então, por meio da assinatura desses journals. Na modalidade Open Access, esse conteúdo ele não está atrás de um paywall, você não tem que ter assinatura para acessar. Então, o custo ele vem no momento de publicar, de submeter o autor, quando não se tem um acordo transformativo com uma CAPES, ele faz o pagamento de uma taxa. No caso do acordo com a CAPES, não é necessário fazer nenhum pagamento, é totalmente gratuita a publicação em acesso aberto, uma vez que esses custos foram absorvidos pelo acordo ACS-CAPES. Então, falando um pouquinho sobre o Open Access de uma forma bem simples, porque a gente não tem tempo aqui de explorar, é um conceito muito mais amplo que envolve também Open Science, enfim, mas que a gente não tem tempo aqui para explorar esses conceitos, mas de uma maneira muito simples, o Open Access, ele é uma possibilidade que faz com que a pesquisa esteja aberta, livremente aberta para todos, para leitura, acesso, para que você possa, dependendo do tipo de licença que você usa, construir novos conhecimentos a partir disso, fazer a tradução, a disponibilização, e não tem nenhum impedimento de acesso, ainda que você não tenha assinatura, você vai ter acesso. E por que então que os autores quais são os benefícios do Open Access? Quando você publica no formato tradicional, as pessoas que vão ter acesso são as pessoas que têm assinatura àquele conteúdo, né? No caso da ACS, se você publica num conteúdo, num formato tradicional, as pessoas que têm acesso são aquelas que têm assinatura. Se você publica em acesso aberto, esse conteúdo, ele fica aberto para pesquisadores de todo mundo. Então, é uma forma de garantir a democratização, a equidade no acesso ao conhecimento científico, e isso com certeza vai incrementar a visibilidade e o impacto da sua pesquisa. Como eu mencionei anteriormente, os indicadores apontam que você pode alcançar até 6 vezes mais citações quando publica em acesso aberto. Por isso que a CAPES fez um esforço tão grande de, juntamente com a ACS, de celebrar esse acordo, porque isso vai ampliar a visibilidade da pesquisa brasileira. Os autores, quando publicam em acesso aberto, eles mantêm os direitos de copyright, porque quando você publica no formato tradicional, você transfere os direitos para a editora, né? Então, os direitos de fazer a comercialização e esse tipo de coisa, o direito moral, ele é sempre do autor, né? E isso vai, esse acesso democrático e aberto ao conhecimento, com certeza vai ampliar a produtividade da ciência, possibilitar uma internalização, uma colaboração maior entre os pesquisadores. Agora, hoje nós vamos falar, o nosso webinar, ele vai falar sobre journals que são totalmente abertos, que são os Golden Journals, né? Então, ou o que a gente chama aqui de a família AU, né, da ACS. Mas existem diferentes maneiras de publicar em Open Access. Eu não vou me deter muito a esses conceitos, mas eu achei que foi importante manter esse webinar para que vocês entendam quais são os journals da ACS que nós estamos falando hoje nesse webinar. Então, existem algumas rotas de acesso aberto, que eles chamam de Diamond, são journals, por exemplo, os journals financiados pelo Cielo, eles são journals Diamond, porque o autor não tem que pagar para publicar, ele é financiado pelo governo, né, no caso, pela FAPES, pela CAPES e outras agências que financiam o Cielo. A CS tem um journal Diamond, que é o ACS Central Science, que é totalmente financiado, os custos de publicação é financiado pela ACS. Então, isso é o que eles chamam de Diamond Gold. Os journals que são Gold são aqueles journals que só publicam em acesso aberto, que são essa família que nós vamos falar hoje de AU Journals da ACS, são os Journals Golds. Eles não publicam no formato tradicional, eles publicam somente. Se os autores quiserem publicar nesses journals, eles precisam necessariamente ter um acordo transformativo ou fazer o pagamento da taxa para publicação em acesso aberto. A Rota Verde é o repositório lá da sua instituição, repositório institucional, quando você faz o depósito do artigo lá. É necessário prestar atenção, porque às vezes você tem uma questão de não regras das editoras, de quando que você pode publicar no repositório da sua instituição. Então, no caso do acordo da ACS, nós vamos estar falando de duas possibilidades, de journals que são fully open access, ou seja, golden journals, que é essa família que os nossos editores vão falar hoje, e journals híbridos, que são os journals que anteriormente publicavam somente no formato tradicional e que hoje possibilitam a publicação nos dois formatos, no formato tradicional e no formato open access, o autor pode escolher como proceder. Então, aqui falando especificamente do acordo Read Post-Publish, né? Quais são os benefícios para os autores? Então, assim, você tem acesso a ilimitado, né, irrestrito a todos os journals da ACS, os custos, eles são, nesse caso, cobertos pela CAPES, não só o custo de acesso, mas o custo de publicação. Então, vocês podem publicar após o devido processo de revisão por pares, que é o mesmo, o procedimento é o mesmo, a gente vai falar um pouquinho sobre isso depois. Vocês podem publicar em qualquer journal da ACS sem qualquer custo, e isso não tem nenhuma barreira, o artigo ele fica aberto imediatamente, e o processo para publicar, ele é realmente um processo muito simples. Aqui falando de como que a ACS se posiciona hoje com esses acordos mundialmente, tem um esforço muito grande da ACS de ampliar esses acordos, porque é uma forma de democratizar o acesso ao conhecimento científico. Então, a gente pode ver aqui em azul que a ACS está atuando especialmente aqui na América do Norte, né? A gente vê aqui uma atuação muito forte na Europa também, mas aqui na América Latina especificamente, nossos acordos hoje cobrem mais de 300 instituições, com acordos no Brasil, no Chile, Costa Rica, México, Paraná, Peru e Porto Rico. Agora falando especificamente sobre o acordo da CAPES, é um acordo histórico porque é um dos maiores do mundo de Open Access para ACS, no âmbito da ACS, é o maior acordo de Open Access que a gente tem hoje, porque cobre quase 300 instituições, então é realmente um acordo histórico. Então, como eu disse, o acordo vai possibilitar o acesso à parte da leitura, né, completa e a parte da publicação também ilimitado, você pode publicar quantos artigos você quiser, desde que você seja aprovado no processo de revisão por pares, né? E aí, então, são 291 instituições cobertas pelo acordo, e uma coisa muito importante, que o corresponding author, e o submitting author, então o autor correspondente e que faz a submissão, ele tem que estar afiliado a uma dessas 291 instituições para que o artigo então seja coberto diante do acordo, né? Então, quais são os journals elegíveis nesse acordo da CAPES? Absolutamente todos os journals, 93 journals publicados pela ACS. A gente fala aqui com exceção do ACS Central Science, porque vocês podem publicar no ACS Central Science sem custo após o processo de revisão por pares, independente do acordo da CAPES, porque esse é um journal Diamond que é financiado pela ACS. Não tem limites de APC, ou seja, os autores podem publicar quantos artigos eles puderem e quiserem, desde que seja aprovado o processo de revisão por pares. A gente não vai entrar aqui nos detalhes de licença Creative Commons, mas quando a gente fala de publicação em Open Access, existem licenças que definem o que um usuário pode fazer com o seu artigo. Se ele pode só ler, só citar, se ele pode traduzir, se ele pode comercializar. E aqui, no âmbito do acordo da CAPES, a licença adotada é a licença CC BY, que é a licença mais aberta, que permite amplo uso do artigo ou do conteúdo publicado. E esse agreement, ele foi assinado no ano passado e é válido até 2029. Se vocês querem fazer a publicação com no âmbito do acordo com a CAPES, é muito importante que vocês tenham conhecimento dessa diretriz da portaria 120, que foi publicada em abril de 2024 pela CAPES, e ela estabelece quem é elegível de participar desses acordos. Então, você precisa ser um docente permanente, visitante ou colaborador de uma daquelas 291 instituições, ou ainda um agente público das instituições participantes do PADCT. E aí também você pode ser um discente ou egresso até 5 anos. Então, se você é um egresso até 5 anos em um curso de mestrado ou doutorados, você também está elegível. É elegível para participar para fazer a publicação no âmbito do acordo, e também residentes de pós-doutorado, se registrado como docente colaborador de programas de uma daquelas 291 instituições. Como se dá o processo, então? A submissão não muda, você faz a submissão normalmente, lembrando que o autor, ele tem que ser, o autor que está submetendo, ele tem que ser o autor correspondente, um dos autores correspondente afiliado àquela instituição, tá? Então, isso é muito importante, senão o artigo não vai ser publicado no âmbito do acordo da CAPES. Depois que você faz a submissão, então não tem nenhuma alteração do processo de submissão, do processo de revisão por pares, a aceitação pelo editor após a revisão por pares, e daí quando você, então, o seu artigo é aprovado para publicação, você vai receber um e-mail para que você assine o Journal Publish Agreement. E aí, nesse momento, você vai ter uma pergunta dizendo se você gostaria de publicar no âmbito do acordo da CAPES. Você só tem que clicar ali, falar que sim, e nesse momento, então, a CAPES vai receber um e-mail falando que tem um novo requerimento de publicação em Open Access. Ela vai fazer todas as verificações a fim de confirmar que o autor correspondente é afiliado a uma das instituições. Ela aprova e pronto, tá? A aprovação em Open Access está aprovada e vocês então recebem um e-mail de confirmação e pronto, tá publicado em Open Access, né? Então, algumas recomendações da CAPES e ACS. Então, somente o autor correspondente né, que é aquele que está afiliado à instituição, é aquele que faz a submissão do artigo. É necessário que a gente recomende que vocês utilizem, adotem nome por completo, sem abreviação. A afiliação, ela tem que ser em português, então você vai colocar o departamento, instituto e universidade. É importante que vocês adicionem o Work ID ou ORCID de todos os autores e que vocês mantenham o lápis de vocês e o registro na plataforma Sucupira atualizado, porque a CAPES vai fazer a verificação se vocês estão afiliados a uma daquelas 291 instituições. Então, acho que é isso por agora. Nós vamos então voltar para o inglês. Eu vou fazer a apresentação dos nossos editores. Coloquem as perguntas de vocês em relação ao acordo da CAPES lá, porque depois nós vamos ter aqui o Q&A. E agora, então, eu vou fazer a apresentação dos nossos editores. Eles vão falar um pouco sobre os journals, sobre como que é esse processo de publicação nos journals da ACS, e depois, então, nós vamos para a questão do Q&A. Então, agora eu vou mudar para o inglês novamente. So we are done with the first part. So now I'm going to switch again into English. And it's my great pleasure to introduce our editors that will be answer all your questions today. So we have here with us Professor Christopher Jones, who is the editor-in-chief of our journals, JACS Au, and also Professor Shirley Minter, who is the editor-in-chief for the whole AU Journals family. So first, I would like to introduce Professor Jones, who is a professor of chemical and biomolecular engineer at Georgia Institute of Technology. He joined Georgia Technica as an assistant professor in 2000, and before that, he served as Associate Vice President for Research from 2013 to 2019. Dr. Jones leads a research group that works on material catalysis and observation. And Jones also produced an extensive body of work in catalysis. Dr. John was the founding editor-in-chief of the journals ACS Catalysis and is vice president of the North American Catalyst Society. And today he leads the Open Access Multidisciplinary Journals, our journal at JACS Au. Dr. Minter is a professor of chemistry and director of the Cumming Institute Center for Research Sustainability at Missouri University of Science and Technology. She is also the director of the NSF Center for Synthetic Organic Electrochemistry. After receiving her PhD degree, she spent 11 years as a faculty in the Department of Chemistry at the St. Louis University before moving to the University of Utah in 2011 to lead the Alternative Energy Cluster. She was a technical editor for the Journal of the Electrochemical Society and one associated editor for the Journal of the American Chemical Society before becoming the inaugural editor-in-chief of the ACS Au Journals. Her research focused in electrocatalysis and electrochemistry. She has expertise in biosensor, biofuels, and cell sand bioelectronic. Firstly, Professor Jones will talk about our JACS AU, and then Professor Minto will present our ACS Au Journal family. So please, Professor Jones.
Okay, next slide, please. One more. All right, so thank you so much. It's really great to have an opportunity to talk to you about JACS Gold and the Gold family of journals. When the CAPES agreement was signed a year ago, Shelley and I had a little celebration because we understand how important the Brazilian chemistry and broader scientific community is to ACS Publications. And so this event is a long time coming. We've been looking forward to talking with you for at least a year. So as was previously mentioned, I had the good fortune to be editor-in-chief of ACS Catalysis when that journal started. So the opportunity to start JACS Gold was a wonderful opportunity that I took on in 2020 when we launched these new Gold family journals. And of course, with the name JACS involved, it's leveraging the iconic journal, the Journal of the American Chemical Society, which has been a leading journal in chemistry for over 140 years. And we hope to live up to that standard. So we publish science and engineering work in all areas that relate to chemistry, as illustrated on this slide. Those of you who have worked in chemistry for a long time might remember that JACS previously, please, yeah, stay here, please, thank you, might remember that JACS previously published a lot of papers in certain areas and less papers in other areas. One of the things we are trying to do, and in fact that JACS is doing as well, is trying to make sure that we cover all areas of chemistry and the broader chemical fields in JACS and JACS Gold. So we publish articles, letters, perspectives, and then methods and protocols as well. And I will talk about that in the coming slides. But I'll note on this last slide before we go to the next one that like all ACS journals, we're very efficient in peer review. We offer rigorous, helpful peer review with first decisions on 3 weeks on average and average time to publication on the order of 10 weeks. Next slide, please. So we've built a team of editors that covers a broad array of topics, given that we want to cover all of chemistry and related fields. So starting on the top with myself, so I work in chemical engineering and chemistry at the interface of those two fields, on adsorption, on catalysis, and a lot of material science related topics. Moving to the right, Carole Duboc is an inorganic chemist, a molecular inorganic chemist based in France, who handles most of our molecular inorganic chemistry, some of our spectroscopy as well, and she's a bioinorganic chemist, so she does a little bit of work in the chemical biology space. Chunhai Fan is at Shanghai Jiaotong University. He's an expert in DNA nanotechnology, and so he does a lot of our papers that are at the interface of materials and medicine, or materials and biology or chemical biology. Sabina Flitch is an enzymologist. She's going to be ending her term as an associate editor this summer, but she was one of our founding associate editors and handled our chemical biology space. Stepping down to the bottom row on the left side, Hyunju Lee is a chemical engineer in South Korea who works on electrochemistry, batteries, fuel cells, heterogeneous catalysis. Takashi Oi at Nagoya University is a long-standing ACS editor, having started working at ACS Catalysis and now working with us at JACS Gold. He works on organic synthesis as well as organocatalysis. Rod Priestley at Princeton works on papers in soft matter, so papers on colloids and interfaces, vesicles, polymers, and soft matter. Rod will handle all those papers. One of our fastest growing areas in the journal is represented by Professor Xin Su at Fudan University. Xin is a theoretical chemist and computational chemist. And one of the things that we have done uniquely compared to the previous versions of JACS is we publish quite a number of purely computational and theoretical papers. JACS is also accepting these types of papers now, although in the past, previous editors had required some combination of experiments and theory together. So Shin-Su handles most of our theory and computation. Kira Weissman in France is replacing Sabina Flitsch. She's also an enzymologist who's going to do a lot of our work in chemical biology and certainly a lot of the protein-related work. And then finally, Xiaoguang Lei at Peking University works at the interface of organic synthesis and chemical biology, and also is crossing over between those fields. So you see that we cover most areas of chemistry. We're adding editors every year, so we will add some additional editors this coming year. Hopefully we can add some editors to represent the Global South, in particular to represent the broader space in South America. Next slide, please. So a lot of questions that we get are related to what's the difference between JACS and JACS Gold. And if we look at them side by side, we see that they're very complementary to each other. And in fact, they have a lot of similarities. So we seek high quality impact papers, and we cover all areas of chemistry and allied fields. So those are some commonalities. The high quality, high impact certainly applies to all ACS journals. Whereas JACS is a hybrid journal, so it publishes some open access papers and some papers that are covered by a subscription. JACS Gold, of course, is gold open access, and all papers are fully open access. This makes us Plan S compliant. That means that we are compliant with Plan S, that is an important influencer for funding bodies, primarily in Europe, but also some in North America as well. And so while you can publish open access in JACS, those papers are not Plan S compliant because Plan S requires publishing in fully open access journals. Both journals offer articles, letters, and perspectives. We have recently added in JACS Gold methods and protocols, which I will mention on the next slide. And then, of course, we are very new, so we are 5 years old, whereas 8JACS is over 140 years old. So JACS is a very long legacy that we are trying to live up to with the quality and impact standards that JACS has brought to chemistry for over 100 years. Unlike in what you'll hear about in the ACS Gold family journals, where there is some tie-ins between the hybrid journal editors and the Gold family editors, in the case of JACS and JACS Gold, the editorial teams are totally separate. So there's a JACS editorial team that has no formal connections to the JACS Gold editorial team. Although the editor-in-chief, Eric Carrera, and I will often travel together to promote both of these journals as key journals that are part of the broader ACS Publications portfolio. Next slide, please. So a recent paper type that we've introduced is methods and protocols. If you work in materials chemistry or chemical biology, you're probably familiar with this manuscript type. If you don't work in one of those two fields, you might be less familiar with this manuscript type, because it's most common in those disciplines. So with these types of papers, we seek to describe highly reproducible and highly efficient methodologies and protocols that can be used in conducting research, either computational or experimental, in all areas of chemistry and related fields. And so there's only a few journals within the ACS Publications portfolio that offer methods and protocols. We are one of them. And if you're interested in these types of papers or interested in learning more about these types of papers, I encourage you to reach out to me or to Paul Goring, who's the managing editor for JACS Gold, who's also very familiar with this paper type. Next slide, please. So I'm going to pass it over to Professor Mintier now to talk about the ACS Gold community journals. These are journals that I'm really excited about. You'll learn that there's 9 of them. I've already published in 3, and I've had a great experience publishing in those 3. I think I can publish in 3 more based on the chemistry that my group does. So my goal is to see if I can get to 6 of the 9 journals sometime in the next 5 years. So with that, I'll pass it over to Shelley, and she's going to describe the broader family of journals.
Thanks, Chris. As ACS started to think about the gold journals, obviously you see this sort of direct connection between JACS and JACS Gold in terms of having similar scope, being our sort of premier journals on the hybrid side as well as the open access side. But at the time in 2020, when ACS was thinking about starting the Gold Community Journals, there were about 40 subdiscipline journals, more than 40 subdiscipline journals in the ACS hybrid family. And so obviously it didn't make sense to necessarily have 40 plus gold versions of those. So if you go to the next slide, if you think about all of those journals, a lot of those journals have multiple sort of, journals within a family. So if you look at materials, we have a variety of materials journals. If you look at nanoscience, we have ACS Nano, we have Nano Letters, et cetera. And so, as ACS was looking at this, they really thought, this is about building community, and we can kind of break the chemistry field down into these 9 sort of specialty areas. Much like Chris is very interdisciplinary, I'm very interdisciplinary. So that doesn't necessarily mean that any one person would just be submitting to one of these, but these are kind of married on to the 40 plus hybrid journals that existed at the time. And so basically, if you think about these should be analogous, like ACS Measurement Science Gold should be at the same sort of quality as analytical chemistry or ACS sensors. And so the goal was to build these community journals that had a little bit wider scope to encompass all of the hybrid journals in that area. And so we started these 9 that range from bio to engineering to physical chemistry, nanoscience, polymers, et cetera. We currently publish articles, letters, perspectives, and reviews that are kind of normal within the family of ACS journals, but we also published tutorials recently. And so what we have found is one of the advantages of being fully open access is that our journal material can be used for educational purposes to help somebody who's getting into a new field to learn about the field or to use in the classroom. So whether that's the undergraduate classroom or the graduate classroom. And so recently we have started a tutorials that actually provides help, kind of a blueprint and sort of fundamental knowledge to help someone get started in a new field. And those have been excellent. I've personally, one of the ones that we commissioned for ACS Measurement Science Gold is in electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, which used to be my worst part of teaching electrochemistry because it was poorly explained in the textbook that I used. And this year I was able to provide that fully open access tutorial to my students so that they could learn in more depth, sort of better than the textbook for that. So if we go to the next slide, the way that the gold journals were actually set up is to ensure that we had the same quality as the hybrid journals. Our initial deputy editors and associate editors had dual roles. So as we started the 9 journals, I'm editor-in-chief. Each journal has a deputy editor in that specific subdiscipline of chemistry. And each one of those deputy editors at the time had a dual role in another journal. So they were an associate editor, an executive editor, in another journal. For instance, Squire Booker, who's our deputy editor for ACS Bio and MedChem Gold, is also the executive and is an executive editor for biochemistry. And so this ensured that essentially that we were doing a quality control aspect to ensure that the quality of the gold journals was equivalent to the hybrid journals. As we have moved on, got our first impact factors and kind of built a set of associate editors with that quality control in mind, we're moving on to having associate editors and deputy editors whose entire role is with the Gold Journals. It's actually a lot of work to work for multiple journals. So when we needed a new deputy editor for ACS Polymers Gold, we brought Seb in, and his entire role now is with ACS Polymers Gold. Initially, it's pretty easy to have multiple roles when the journal is small, but as the journals grow, it's important to have those dual roles. So each of the journals has a deputy editor and a series of associate editors who will support handling your papers. Much as Chris said, we're super excited to see this sort of Brazilian agreement come forward, and we hope that you will submit to one or more of our Gold family journals. If you want to go to the next slide. I'll just finish up by sort of reminding you that when it comes to thinking about these Gold family journals, they go under the same rigorous peer review and selectivity of our hybrid journals. So if you're submitting to ACS Measurement Science Gold, you would have a very similar sort of peer review experience as you would to analytical chemistry, with the same sort of quality control from that aspect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Mintir, Dr. Jones. Very much appreciate your presentation. So I just saw that Paul Gorin is also here with us. So Paul, do you wanna say a few words? Sorry, I missed you. I didn't see you earlier.
Hey, I did join a little bit late because I was getting back from a conference in Strasbourg, so I'm taking this from my hotel room. So apologies for that. But I didn't really have anything to add. Chris and Shirley, I think, summed it up really, really well. And the audience is probably more interested to hear from them than from me. So I will keep my mouth shut unless I'm specifically asked something.
Okay, thank you so much, and good to have you here with us. So yeah, I do have a couple questions here that are coming, and I will ask our audience to keep putting the questions on the form that we have the link on YouTube chat. And I'm gonna start with Dr. Shelley. One question that I got is when OA is not mandatory, what should motivate me to publish with AU journals?
I think at this point, both with JACS Gold as well as with the Gold Community Journals, because at this point we're getting started, we're smaller journals, and we have the opportunity to provide a lot more sort of specialized services. So you get a lot more attention to every individual article at this point in time. So it's an opportunity for a lot of interaction with the editor that you might not get at one of the sort of massive, bigger hybrid journals.
I think that would be very relevant, especially for younger scientists that are starting, because the process is always a challenge. So that would provide them a good experience for sure. So thank you so much. And now for Dr. Jones, the other question we got here, it's one I think you already went through. Questions about the difference between JACS and JACS AU. So I think you already covered that, but in case you want to revisit. But the next question was, how does open access publish with JACS AU benefit research, especially those in developed countries like Latin America? What are the benefits publishing with JACS Gold?
Sure. It's the benefits are somewhat similar to what Professor Mintir previously described, and I'll give an example. So when I published recently a paper in ACS Environmental Gold, it was what I would call one of my solid, strong papers. Not a paper that I would send to ACS Central Science, but also still a paper I'm very proud of. And it's received more downloads and citations than I truly expected because of the fact that it's published gold open access. It's available to everyone. And as I look at the citations, what I see is that the paper is being picked up and is accessible to researchers all over the world, but especially with a preponderance of citations coming from scientists in the global south. So the fact that we are available after publishing in gold journals everywhere increases the reach of your paper. And so I was really pleasantly surprised by my paper that was in ACS Environmental Gold because, frankly, it got more citations than papers that I submitted in hybrid journals that were of similar quality in journals that might have had maybe a doubly higher impact factor. And so I've been really happy with the reach of the papers that they get published in gold journals because they're freely available. Scientists know that they can go to that journal homepage and search for papers and get access to all the papers in the journal. And so I find that my gold published journals get a little bit more citations and downloads on average than I would normally expect.
Yeah, and that would be especially relevant for regions like Latin America that's working to expand like the visibility and impact of their research and everything the scientists are doing here. So that's why we are always super excited to talk about this CAPES agreement because it's really I think that's gonna impact the visibility of the Brazilian scientific research. And thank you so much, Dr. Jones. And now another question for Dr. Mintir. What are the most common misconceptions authors have about publishing open access journals and how you address them?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest sort of misconception within open access is that it is a pay to play and that the peer review process is different for an open access journal than it is for a traditional journal or a hybrid journal. And I think we all have received many emails from predatory open access journals. And so there is sort of, a challenge with that. But within ACS, our open access journals undergo the same rigorous peer review. We have the same quality control bars for our open access articles as we do for the hybrid journals.
And that takes us to the next question, which is what is the difference between predatory journals and gold open access journals?
Yeah, so I think, as you look at different journal families or different commercial and society journals, you see sort of different editorial practices, and it is not obvious when you receive those many emails that we receive in terms of what the editorial process is. And so it's a bit challenging, and I think that's the reason that the gold journals have been nice, is people know ACS, they trust ACS, they trust the peer review process. And so that's my kind of suggestion when you get these invitations for publishing in open access journals, is to really look at what the publisher history is, and whether or not this is a new area for them, or they're just starting up and trying to make money by starting open access journals. I mean, personally, most of the invitations that come in wanting you to publish in these predatory journals, frequently come in with multi-different colored fonts, and sometimes it's really easy to sort of realize that they're a predatory journal. Sometimes it's more difficult, but I think the important thing to think about is to go back to those journals that were not open access, those publishing companies or societies that you value their peer review and the rigor of their peer review and their quality control, and to focus on that.
Okay, thank you so much. And now for Dr. Jones, could you walk us through the peer review process at ACS with JACS Au, and how does it ensure both rigor and fairness?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So we get submissions from one of really only two ways, either via direct author submission to the journal JACS Gold, or a small number of papers get transferred to us from ACS Central Science. To further talk about strict avoidance of using the phraseology that Shelley used, pay-to-play practices, as an example, we do not accept transfers from JACS. So there's no instances where you might get declined at JACS, and if you pay to publish open access in JACS Gold, you could be considered. There's no process that allows that to happen. And so we get our submissions solely from an author-submitted paper directly to us, or from a transfer from ACS Central Science, which sits at the top of the portfolio of the ACS journals. It comes into my office, in the editor-in-chief's office, and I will read the cover letter, look at the paper, typically read the abstract, look through the figures, and try to get a feeling for what is the science that the authors are trying to convey. And based on that, I will then assign it to one of the associate editors based on their topical expertise. If it's a field that I know something about, I might add a sentence or two to the email that I send to them when I assign it, things that I like about the paper or I noticed about the paper. It will then go to the assigned associate editor, or some small number of papers I will handle as the associate editor, and then that editor will independently evaluate it. So for more than 90% of all papers that come to JACS Gold, it gets a brief evaluation by at least two editors, myself plus the editor to whom it was assigned. That editor who has the paper assigned to them, they make all the final decisions on the paper. So regardless of what I say to them when I send them the email, they have complete power to make all decisions on the paper. They will decide to send it out for external peer review, or they may decide to transfer it or to decline it, depending on their personal evaluation of the paper. Of course, then you have the peer review process where it comes back to the editor and goes back to the author for revisions and then hopefully acceptance. So we do transfer or decline a fairly large number of papers before sending it out for additional external peer review. Again, JACS Gold is trying to uphold the standards of JACS, which means not only do we want technically correct, highly rigorous science, but we also want to have papers that impact and move a field forward. And so the easiest way to describe what I think what we're looking for is to say that if you have a paper that would represent a top 10% of the impact of any specialty journal, in either the hybrid or the gold portfolio, that would be the type of paper that we would like to publish in JACS Gold. Whereas if you have a paper that is a really strong fundamental advance in science, in chemistry, but the impact is more specialized or more minimal, then that might be something that could be appropriate for one of our specialty journals. And so that's the general process that we go through. Every paper has two editors who look at it, and then it goes through the normal peer review process.
Mhm. So novelty, it's one of the key components for you, right?
I don't like that word, so I try not to use that word. I like the word impact. You can
Okay.
be really impactful, but be working on a catalyst or a material or a molecule that's been around for 100 years.
Okay.
And so I don't like to use the word novelty, but some people continue to use it, and I don't think it's a bad word. I just think that novelty is always in the eye of the beholder.
Okay.
Whereas, if you get 10 people to read a paper, usually the majority will agree that it's highly impactful, moderately impactful, or low impact. I think impact is more uniformly assessed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Dr. Mintu, what are the key aspects you look for in a strong manuscript submitted to one of the ACS Au journals?
I think we're always looking for manuscripts that have an impact on the field. Much as Chris just said, but also looking for manuscripts that are telling a story that are going to be accessible to the reader in that subdiscipline. So looking at quality figures, looking at not just presenting data, but telling the story, and ensuring that they're putting their work in context to the greater field, whether that's the greater field of materials, nanoscience, etc., putting their work into context that will be accessible, not just someone who specifically does something very, very similar to them, but to the broader field in general, so that more people can learn from their work.
Okay, thank you. And we have some specific questions here about the CAPES agreement. So item, he asked, I am in the process of publish and I am covered by my university PC budget and CAPES agreement. Does this incur any cost if I am in the process of publish an article to a journal on the list of open access journals? No, there is no cost under the CAPES agreement. So you can publish in any ACS journals. All this that you are seeing here in this screen or JACS, AU, or any hybrid journals, and there is no cost to your university or to you, since all the costs are covered by CAPES, and that means the Brazilian government in partnership with ACS. So there is no cost. The process is very simple. You do your submission in the way that you are used to, or if it's your first time, you have any questions, please reach us out. Valtair, my team, is a specialist on publishing, so we'll be happy to assist you. So you submit your article. It's going through all this process that our editors mentioned, and then if the article is accepted, you are going to get an email, and the only thing you have to do is to confirm that you want to publish under the CAPES agreement. So there is no cost related. As soon as you confirm that you want to publish under the CAPES agreement, CAPES is going to get an email just to confirm your affiliation. So again, make sure the correspondent submitted author is affiliated to one of those 291 institutions, and there is no cost at all for our Gold AU journals or for any of our other hybrid or open access journals like ACS Omega. There is no cost involved. Okay. And thank you for the specific questions about CAPES agreement. And one more question that we have here, it's how to make how is ACS Publish working to make open access more inclusive and sustainable for the global research community? So who would like to answer that one?
I'll give it a shot. So thanks for that question. Going back to the very introductory slides in the beginning of the presentation, right? So the American Chemical Society is the biggest scientific society in the world, and it really views its goal and its mission to be the global chemical society. And so serving the needs of chemists and people working in related fields all over the world, regardless of where they live, is part of the core mission of the American Chemical Society. So these read and publish agreements, like the CAPES agreement, are an important way that ACS is trying to make access to ACS products like our strong publications available to everyone in the world, right? So prior to 2020, actually, no, prior to about 2015, when ACS Central Science started, for the first 135 years of the society, all the publications were covered only by subscription. So this meant that maybe researchers in very wealthy countries had access to all that scientific information, but in other locations, that access was just not available. So seeing the society, seeing itself as a society with a global mission, that was one of the key drivers that led ACS Publications to decide that having an open access part of the portfolio was very important to the core mission of the society. So these read and publish agreements make small universities, large universities, wealthy countries and universities, less wealthy countries and universities have access to the leading scientific information, which I think is a huge service to improving the human condition, improving humanity, and also pushing science forward. And so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to work with ACS Publications on these global initiatives, and I'm sure you'll see more and more of this of ACS in the future. So this event here, we're reaching out to our colleagues in Brazil and broader Latin America to try to build more bridges and build more bonds, is a perfect example of how we can we view ourselves as all in some ways the same, all fighting to push science forward and to improve quality of life of people all over the world. But we also embrace the fact that we have our unique aspects, right? So this Brazilian chemist is different from an American chemist, which is different from a Swedish chemist, and we embrace those differences as well.
Great, thank you so much. And Dr. Mitchell, one other question that I have here, what advice would you give to early career researchers in Brazil who are looking to publish their first article with ACS?
So I think the important thing to think about first is where you're going to publish. So looking at hybrid journals, gold journals, figuring out the appropriate journal. So looking at the actual scope of each one of the journals and making sure that you're within that scope and that you're finding the journal that has the right audience. I think that's first and foremost. At that point, there are a number of different, and actually the Gold Journals have published a series of editorials helping you in terms of young investigators or students writing their first papers, giving tutorials on how to do that. But the first thing that you have to do before you write the paper is figure out who the audience is and what the journal is, so that you're really speaking to the right audience.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Can I just build on that?
Yes.
Because Dr. Mintier and I are both interdisciplinary researchers, and I think that this is something that we think about a lot that maybe younger researchers don't think about as often, and that is that who is your audience that Dr. Mintier just talked about. So for example, in my case, I work on materials. Those materials are applied for a key separation, carbon dioxide from mixtures. And quite often the materials I use are combinations of hard materials and soft materials. I could write that paper for a very materials audience. I could write it for a separations audience. I could write the paper for a sustainability audience. And depending on whether I'm going to one of those specialty journals, framing the data and framing the impact for those different audiences will be different. And so if I frame it from a polymer perspective, but then send it to a sustainability journal, there might be a bit of a mismatch. And then for a journal like JACS Gold, ACS Central Science, those audiences are very broad. And so being able to frame the work for the broader audience at JACS Gold will be slightly different from if you're framing it for a specialist polymer audience, if I'm publishing in ACS Polymers Gold, for example. So I really like the comment that Dr. Mintier made to start with the journal and the audience first. I think that's really important.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And one question that came also, it's when you mentioned, Dr. Jones, the cover letter, it's the first thing that you read. And so they would like to know more about that. Like, what does it mean? What do you expect from a good cover letter?
Yeah, I think the cover letter is the most underutilized aspect of submitting your paper and selling your work. In general, you want your paper to be evidence-based and factual. So I, as an editor, when I'm reading a paper, I really like papers that stick to the facts and don't use a lot of what I'll call superlative words. Overuse of adjectives and adverbs that describe how wonderful your work is in the paper, I view that as a turnoff. I want you to be evidence-based and factual. But your cover letter is a place where you can brag. A cover letter is a place where you can say, we did all of these really interesting studies, and here's the impact, and here's why the impact is so important. The cover letter is only seen by the editors, and so it's a great place for you to, brag about your work and why it's important and why it deserved to be published in a high impact journal like an ACS Specialty Journal or an ACS Broad Chemistry Journal. And so I think that's the most important aspect of a cover letter, is to really explain what you think the impact is, what communities will care about the work, and why you think it's important. And so it's a great opportunity to take. And if you just simply copy the conclusions or copy the abstract into your cover letter and use that instead, you're missing an opportunity to really describe the impact of your work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We got one more question specific about the CAPES agreement, so I'll answer that one. That's from Cesar. He said, should only the correspondent author submit the manuscript? If one of the co-authors submits the manuscript, but I'm the correspondent author, is that manuscript eligible for APC coverage? So it's very important, Cesar, that the submitting the correspondent author, it's the submitting author, and it's affiliated to one of those 291 institutions. That's very important. The correspondent author must be affiliated of one of those 291 institutions, because when you after having your article accepted and when you check the option to publish under the CAPES agreement, CAPES is going to go back and check if the correspondent author is affiliated to those institutions. So it's very important that the correspondent author is the submitted author that is affiliated to one of those institutions. So I hope I answer your question. If not, we're gonna put our email at the end of this presentation. So please reach us out and we're gonna be more than happy to answer that. So I have two more questions here, and the first one is, do ACS Au Journals and ACS and JACS Au accept manuscripts previously available as preprints? I'm sorry. So if the journals accept articles that was previously available as preprints.
Yeah, I think that this is true for all ACS journals, that we like preprints. We want authors to use them. We're happy to send for peer review and ultimately accept papers that have already appeared as preprints. Most journals will ask to make sure the authors tell us that it exists as a preprint in the cover letter, though. So usually you want to have it submitted as a preprint before you submit it to the journal, so then you can tell the editor in your cover letter, hey, this exists as a preprint in archive or chem archive, bioarchive, wherever it may be. That way, when we do a plagiarism check later, we know that we need to exclude that pre-publication as a source for a possible, plagiarism check. So please tell the authors, the editors rather, in the cover letter. If you didn't submit it to a preprint, but when you submit it to the paper, but you decide to submit it to a preprint server after you've submitted it to the journal, that's also okay, but you just need to make sure you send the editor an email to let him or her know that you went ahead and sent it to a preprint server as well. Shelley, did I miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to add on that?
Nope, that covers it.
Dr. Mintir, one question that I have now, it's about how authors can use AI tools. So the question is, can an author use AI tool to write parts of their test or not?
Yes, so you need to disclose any use of AI, and you can't use AI to compose. You can use AI to improve your writing. Chris may be able to speak to this to more detail, but I also think that you're at this point not allowed to use AI for images like cover art and things like that. Or maybe Paul. Paul turned his video on, so Paul will probably be able to help us with that.
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. Using an AI tool like ChatGPT or whatever to polish the language, because obviously we recognize that English is not everybody's first language, and some people struggle with English. Using an AI tool to polish your English is fine. Using the AI tool to completely generate the paper from scratch is not fine. And as Shani mentioned, we also don't want authors to use AI to entirely generate images. Use of AI is fine for polishing, but again, authors must disclose any use of AI, and AI tools also do not qualify for authorship under ACS ethical guidelines.
Building on Paul's comment, one of the things that Professor Mintir said earlier was a great advantage of the gold journals, JACS Gold and the specialty journals included, is that because we're newer journals and we're still growing, the editors have time to really work on the paper in quite detail and help the authors improve their paper and get it published. But what that also means is that we have time to notice errors that AI might make if AI were to compose a paper. So for example, we just had a paper that was submitted to JACS Gold that, upon examination by the editor found 5 fake references, right? And maybe the authors didn't even know that happened because they maybe used an AI tool to create the paper. But there were 5 fake references, which of course led to the paper immediately being rejected. And then that's not an outcome that anybody wants. And so we try to focus on making sure that we are publishing papers that are written and composed by practicing human scientists. But like Paul said, if you want to use the tool to polish your language, make it easier to read, smoother sounding, I think that's a good use of AI.
Perfect. Thank you so much to our editors. What a inspiring discussion. Thank you for your time, for being here with us. And I think that close our Q&A session, but I would like to share some resource about that can be useful when you are preparing your next manuscript, especially for young scientists. But before going to talk about that, I'm always excited to share this data that we gather from Dimensions Analytic. That is a platform where we can gather some indicators on scientific production around the globe. And we are very excited always to say that ACS is in between the two editorial that create more impact and visibility to the Brazilian scientific research. And here we are talking about the average of citation per article published with the main editorials in the last 10 years in Brazil. And as you can see, ACS is the second one generating the highest average of citation per article in Brazil. So this is very exciting. That's mean when you publish with ACS, you have more chance to get this broadly and international audience and have more visibility and impact to your research. So we invite you to submit your article to our ACS journals. And if you have any questions, please reach us out. And now I'm going to share some of the resources that can be very useful, especially for young researchers. ACS as a scientific society has a number of resources that can be very useful. So here, to help you to prepare your next manuscript, you can find, as Dr. Mintir mentioned, like editorials that can be very helpful in our journals, but please make sure to also follow the guidelines of each journal. And we also have this resource that the ACS guide. Some of the articles in ACS guide is open access, are open access, and you can have access to that. And also ACS has this free Author Lab course. It's totally free, and you can take this course that was developed by our ACS editors, ACS managed editors, and that's going to help you to prepare a stronger manuscript. And also we have this free ACS Reviewer Lab. It's a very relevant course for those that want to become a reviewer, but as an author also helps you to understand what the reviewers and even the editors they are expecting and what they are looking for when they receive a manuscript and when they are evaluating a manuscript. Also, we in Brazil have a very strong agenda on scientific communication, scientific writing, and other training course that are for free. So here is the QR code that you can check on that, and we are going to be more than happy to also work with faculties and university to specific university to promote specific trainings and any scientific communication related topic. Can be AI, can be peer review, can be how to write a manuscript, or any of those topics. So here it's our contact, my contact as the Latin manager for ACS Publication, and Valtair is based in Brazil, and he's our published scientific information outreach specialist. He's so he's the one that is offering all those trainings, and he's going to be more than happy to work with you all on specific training, specific needs. So now I want to thank you again, Dr. Jones and Dr. Mintir, for sharing their expertise and perspective on the future of AI published. Thank you, Paul, also for working with us, Hannah, Valtair, and Janali for making this possible. Thank you to CAPES for also helping us, being this great partner, promoting this event and working to increase awareness about our agreement. And of course, we want to thank you all our attendees for all your questions and active participation. Thank you so much. It's clear that we are seeing a growing interest in open access in Brazil, and we are very excited to see how the Brazilian research and around the world are going to take advantage of the opportunities offered by ACS transformative agreement, in this case, especially the ACS and CAPES transformative agreement. Just as a reminder, so this session has been recorded and we'll make that available in our YouTube page, and also the attendees should receive an email with links to all these resources that I mentioned towards the end of our presentation. And also don't forget it, if you didn't sign the form of your presence here, it's important because we are going to send out the certificates. So if you have any further questions or need any support from us, from ACS, please feel free to reach me out. I'm sure our editors is also available, Paul as well. So please reach us out. And on behalf of the ACS Publications, I thank you once again for being here with us today, spending this part of your morning. And we are very much looking forward to see your research published in one of our AU journals, and also looking forward to increase and expand our partnership with the Brazilian scientific community. So thank you so much. Thank you again to our editors, and have you all a great day. Thank you so much.